All right, ladies and gentlemen, another edition of Between Two Connors. We got it right this time. Connor Donovan is here.
What's up, Connor?
What's up, man? And we brought in a good guest.
Yeah, we brought in Lee, and he's in between us this time, which is...
Yeah, we got two plants. It's a little nicer setup than before, right?
Nicer.
Lee, you wouldn't know.
We need to make a plan about... I can't just keep saying Connor. So you have to have one name, and you have to have another.
The fact that has not come up before.
You could say Condon. It sounds weird when
Condon.
I say it, though.
Yeah.
I haven't been called Connor when I've been back home in, forever, except my parents.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like this is the first time this has come up, and we've done 4 of these, 3 of these, 6 of these?
This is our third with somebody. The other one we did it was just you and me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, only the cameras was between us.
All right, so this is Irish Connor, and you're American Connor.
He's American, too.
Photo day, they asked me, or media day, they asked me if I wanted to, if I needed an Irish flag.
Yeah, well, when it was me, him, and Dan playing centreback last year, we called ourselves the Three Potatoes.
That was the unofficial
nickname. That was given to us, and then...
Who called you the Three Potatoes?
I think I came up with it, but I was joking, and then I think some people ran with it a little bit. Maybe
I didn't run with it. That sounds like something I would run with. Well, excited to have you on. Excited you're back. I want to start with a couple of things that not only do you and others get us confused, but last weekend, I mentioned I was going to say this.
Yeah.
Somebody was trying to text you on the team, texted me asking if I wanted to go out to dinner. Quick response. Did you not hear about this, Lee?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think so.
Yeah, Luis Felipe texts me. Hey, man, what's going on? What are you up to? Quickly realizes it's not the right person. He does the iPhone undo send message, but I already saw it.
Which is incredible that you can do that now, by the way.
It is incredible, yeah. And then so I just I thought it was hilarious.
You should have ran with it though. It sounded like you were gonna get a free meal out of it, maybe.
Well, I don't think so.
You never know.
I don't think that was what's gonna happen. So you're not the only one that
But what did you text him by accident?
Oh yeah, I texted
I can
him.
pull out the receipts if you want it.
We were talking about this on Tuesday.
He said he meant to say he said, "How are the legs feeling, babe?" And then quick response.
Quick
saying,
3 messages.
That was supposed to say, "How are your legs feeling now?"
Yeah.
So I don't know how now.
Or else he was asking his girlfriend how her legs were feeling.
No, that's not something I would ask her. I would not ask my wife how her legs were. I would ask. You had been. I think you just played 3 games in a week.
Tough little schedule that part.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was tough. It's been brought up many times.
I'm waiting for the T-shirt.
We should get T-shirts. Put it on the back. But yeah, Luis had made the mistake as well, and I had a good time with it. So we were making fun. You guys were also both at Tuesday's kit launch party with 10-year members.
Yeah.
I modeled.
You did model. I don't know who.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, I don't know who came up with that.
Yeah.
But you looked good.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you did look good. What you guys like the black kit? Looks good, right?
Yeah, I love that we wear black because last year I felt we had our best performances in black. When you think of, I think a lot of the cup games we wore black, did we? Galaxy
I think everyone.
Away, definitely the semi-final against Kansas.
In the final.
Did we wear it in San Jose?
No, we wore red. We didn't have the black jersey
The
yet.
final we wore white, but we lost that game. Yeah.
But you guys and you've obviously worn it. It's a nice loose, not loose, but it's a nice fit. It feels like a thin jersey where it doesn't weigh on you when you're wearing it.
Yeah, it's a good material. That's one thing Hummel is really good about is the material, training wise, and it feels good so far. I mean, we haven't got into the hot months yet, but so far so good.
What has your guys' relationship been like? I know you mentioned we've talked about you going to visit him in the off season. But kind of building off of last year, you played, I don't know, it seemed like a ton of minutes together right next to each other on the pitch. How has your relationship grown a little bit?
Really good. We're obviously teammates on the road trips, roommates on the road trips, and just have a similar view on the game, I think.
Yeah.
And we just have that connection on the pitch, but that comes from your connection off the pitch, in my opinion. And we just have similar humor, similar personality, and yeah, it's easy. Since I got here the first week, Connor was injured, but obviously sometimes you have centre half partners and you're like, I don't want him to do well because that's my position.
Right.
It was never like that with us. We genuinely want each other to do well, and yeah, we're just very good friends, and that helps us on the pitch, I think.
And it seems like you guys clicked pretty early on, right? When that last year we go to the 3-back, that's when it seems like everything switched. Yeah. But Connor, how much did that come into play when you guys realized, man, we are playing really well together?
What, the off the field stuff or just
in
general? Yeah, I mean, like he said earlier, I think it's the like-mindedness of it. I think in Dan in that case too, but with me and Lee, it was similar viewpoints on how things should go. Can you hear me?
Yep. No, keep going.
How things should be played as a center back in certain situations, and I think those similar aspects kind of bled into the game, and especially as a center back, I've told you before, like communication is one of the biggest thing, and I think the familiarity between me and Lee kind of formulated into the field. I knew where he was going to be. He knew where I was going to be.
What about going into, like, obviously winning builds that, right? How much trust do you guys have for one another, especially in some of those games where you're going against MLS caliber talent coming right at you guys on counters? And I feel like there's an overwhelming calmness that I see on your guys' faces, specifically on like counterattacks. Like you can just tell, like you guys don't, you're calm because you trust the person next to you. What is that like?
Yeah, trust is huge. Like, I'm getting a bit technical now, but like where I play in like the wider of the three centre backs, I have to go in. I get pulled in at times.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'm leaving a hole behind me, but that's his job to cover. So you have to trust each other. He does it perfectly. And yeah, like you said about calmness on counter attacks and stuff. Sometimes we tell the midfielders like we're fine 2v2 or 3v3.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're comfortable like that. And yeah, it's just you have to enjoy defending as well. It's not like, yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Like I enjoy a good block or a goal saving tackle as much as scoring a goal.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm curious about that. That's interesting. So like, what is it about like those? Obviously, you have to have a different mindset as a defender. But when you are like, what is the mindset going into? All right, this play or this play. Do we know? Okay, I want to get a block here. I'm going to try and get. I'm going to do a slide tackle. I'm going to get tackle. Like, how quick are some of those decisions you guys have to make with one another?
Yeah, sometimes like we talk about it a lot. Sometimes you're in bad situations and like you might be numbers down, and it's just about limiting the danger. Like this guy might get a shot off, but can I make his angle worse than what it currently is? Or like you might have to trust your goalkeeper. You're letting him shoot instead of making a pass. And you're like, okay, I kind of have to trust my goalkeeper.
So you're saying
It can be almost like
pass,
damage control.
right? So a pass
extent,
would be more dangerous theoretically than a shot from this angle. So you're taking away the pass to give them a shot, but it's a tougher shot. So you're basically picking. All right, this is a better opportunity for us to not give up a goal.
Yeah, balance and cover. You hear that a lot from Mark and Deech. If Connor's tight, I'm covering. If I'm tight, Connor's covering.
Yeah, and especially with the new formation. I mean, not new. The formation we've been playing. Mark from the start has been so adamant on us being confident as a back three and being able to handle whether it's a 3v3 or even a 2v, whatever it is, a man-to-man situation. So when you have like that, you got to have confidence in each other. Like going back to what he said, like if he slides out, I have to be there for him because at some point it's going to come down to a 1v1 challenge, and that's when maybe you miss it or mess up, and that's when your partner's supposed to come in and help you out.
A lot of new guys. Center backs coming in this year. What have you guys seen, Lee? I'll start with you. What have you seen from those guys that can really kind of bring more depth? Because I know there were times last year like you guys didn't. There wasn't a whole lot of depth where you guys couldn't take games off.
Yeah.
What is it like to now have a lot of depth into that position?
Yeah, it creates competition and doesn't let anybody relax. Just because we played a lot last year doesn't mean we're going to play this year. And I haven't been out on the field much at all this year so far, but I can see Shane and Jared and Johnny have a lot of quality. And like every position on the pitch now, we have at least 2 players. Some positions we have like 6, like for example in midfield. So it's a bigger squad this year, a lot more competition. And like you said, there was times last year where like some players probably did need a rest and we couldn't do it with the cup run and stuff, which is a great situation to be in. So if we get there again this year, now we have a bigger squad that helps us in those situations.
But where are you at injury-wise? I know you've been progressing and getting back. Where are you at right now?
Yeah, I had ankle surgery after the cup final in September. Probably should have had it 4 months before that.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had it in September. That was my last game, and then I came back, done a lot of work in the off season back home in Ireland. Came back, probably trained 3 or 4 days, if that, and then I picked up another injury on my opposite foot. So it's a tough time, probably the toughest time in my career, being honest, but I'm close. The big problem that I had the operation on, that's fixed. That's the big problem. So I'm probably looking at another week or 2 before I'm back.
Well, good. It's good to hear. Good to hear. I want to ask how this guy is on road trips. What is it like rooming with him?
Easy. That's what, we were roommates last year, and then
too easy, though?
There's
Yeah.
definitely some things.
I don't know. He's okay. You might say opposite about me.
No, you're great too.
He's easy.
Just sleep talk.
He loves the room extremely cold.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
Yeah.
it's good for sleep. It's
yeah,
proven.
it's good.
Is it?
I
Yeah.
get better sleeps
It's,
on
way,
the road
it's
trips.
very,
Wow.
very much
Yeah.
a proven fact.
Oh,
what? How
some-
cold?
65.
60. Oh, okay.
It doesn't even go that low. If it went
yeah.
that low, I'd try.
I have a funny one though.
Yeah.
This guy talks in his sleep.
Oh.
All right. Now, it wasn't bad in Tucson or Austin, but last year, the first couple of trips, like, I got a fright. Because I went up to go to the bathroom during the night, and he's like, hey, what's going on? What's up? I'm like, shit, what's going on? And then he was like, oh, yeah, I talk in my sleep.
But I talk about soccer too, I think. People have
Yeah,
told me,
yeah.
like, I'll say, like, step, drop.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Because a lot of it,
Fair
I think, is
dreams.
from people that have told me a lot of it's like just mumbling and kind of just making noises.
Yeah.
But then there's some cases where I guess I'm speaking like I'm playing
Yeah.
in the game,
Huh.
which not a clue because I don't remember those dreams very well. But it's been every roommate I've had on the roads. They're always like, when I signed with Houston, I went in and like I went straight to a road trip with them, and I just met my roommate, and I'm like in the room, and like I remember like vividly, like I woke up, I said something, but I woke up as I was saying, and he just looked at me. He was like, what the hell is going on? And he was like, dude, you wouldn't stop talking. The next morning, he's like, you talked the whole night. I'm like, oh, that's a great way to get to know the guys
Yeah.
on the team.
I'm sure they loved you
Everyone
after
just
that.
thinks I'm crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And I know that obviously being roommates, like on the road, like there's different guys have different, like certain guys, you know, they're up late or they're up early. Like, what are you guys you said similar, so I'm assuming that means you guys are relatively similar in the way you operate.
I think both of us like to get up early in the morning. He goes for a walk before breakfast. Like, I know his routine now.
yeah.
I know
Wow.
everything.
Wow.
So, yeah, no, just get to bed at a reasonable hour and get up early. And, yeah, I don't know. It helps when you're on a similar pattern. Like, it's a couple of players could be worse, believe me.
Yeah.
Malik Foster last year. Probably Dougie this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Playing music. That's the
yeah,
thing. It's the
playing
music.
Right.
We had Galaxy away last year, and like
Oh,
we
okay.
we all went for a nap like during the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like
A day of game?
Yeah, like maybe 1 or 2 p.m. And we heard music. I remember opening the curtains. I was like, oh, there must be a DJ playing at the pool or a band. And we went for like pre-match meal. It was Malik, Jack, and Dan.
Malik's room was in between ours.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Jack and Dan were like, oh, as well. There's a concert on, and like he had his TV turned up to the max as well. And I was like, are you serious? Like, anyway, we won the game, so we got away with it. Yeah.
It's a 5-minute nap that day.
Right.
Wasn't as long as usual.
Yeah. Well, what about how has training camp been going? Obviously, there's been a lot more matches this year in preseason and in training camp than in years past. Mark was on the podcast last week. He said, you know, it's a different time. You know, we have a lot of returning players who kind of know what to do, what to expect. So getting the newer guys into the fold and then also managing and getting them up to full match fitness has been one of the keys. And obviously, this first 6-7 game stretch is big. You got, I think, 4 teams or the top 4. I think Louisville, San Antonio, Colorado, and there's
San Diego.
San Diego. Thank you. So those are all 4 big games in the first 6 matches. How much has that? I know you have been out, but I would imagine like playing a lot of these games early on kind of helps you guys click and get into groove earlier. Is that right?
Yeah, I think like you said, Mark mentioned the big games coming up, but I think a lot of it too is their home games. I think I can't remember the exact number, but I know like maybe it's 5 out of the first 7 are at home.
I think so.
I might be butchering that number, but
3 out of the 4 of those games that I mentioned, I know are at home.
So obviously, if you can start hot and win at home is so important in this league. So I think that goes into the aspect of us playing so many games, and obviously we got to play some good opponents too. I think was the big thing. We played 3 MLS teams and got to play in Austin, and I think the big thing is we've asking how preseason's been. We've gotten progressively better from the first game against Chicago to playing Oakland yesterday. I think everything is so not like just jumped forward, like been like, all right, everything has just gotten better immediately. I think it's been like a slow progression, and you're starting to understand more guys' personalities and what they want to do on the field. And obviously we brought in Arnold and Sebastian, who kind of came in late, so getting them up to speed too. But I think it's been great. I think the reactions from the guys have been really good, and I just keep going from there.
You came into training camp late last year, Lee, and so what is that like from their perspective? You kind of understand what they're going through. They're trying to learn everything, learn everybody's face, name, plus get to know them on the field. Like, what is that like?
Yeah, especially with Arnold and Sebastian, they don't speak English at all.
Right.
So that's been a bit of a challenge. But something we've been conscious of is like, I think we kept 17 players from last year.
Yeah.
So it's probably a tough group to get into.
Yeah.
But like, we're conscious of that. And
Well, good.
yeah.
So you guys talk about it and like try
Yeah.
to figure out, okay, let's not, make sure we're bringing them into the fold.
Yeah, it is a tight knit group, because I know we didn't win anything, but we were relatively successful last year. So that creates a togetherness.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the likes of Shane, Jared, Johnny, all these guys, they might think, oh, this is a really tight group. It's a little bit tough to get in there, but we're conscious of that, and they've settled in really well. And like, yeah, I think you want to bring in good people as well, because that can upset what we have as a group, and everybody seems good so far, so we're happy.
I know we've had quite a few goals, I think, as of late. But you obviously have been watching a lot of the games. Like, what have you seen from this team that you're like, oh, that's a kind of a different dimension maybe we didn't have last year?
I like Sebastian.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I've only seen him in 2 games. I haven't watched any training. I don't like going out. It's torture. But
Yeah.
he scored 2
you
on 2
you wanna be out
headers. Like, I think last year, the amount of chances we created, especially like with Jack's crossing and stuff like that. Yeah, we just need someone to score tap-ins, and he looks like he can do that. So that could, if we create the same chances, we could score an extra 20 goals.
Yeah,
Wow.
It seems like we've added a lot of like dynamic players. I know that sounds pretty simple, but guys like Russell, Sebastian, and then even Arnold, like they all bring something different to the team. But I think it's added a new like dynamic ability for us to keep possession, but also can be a little more explosive. And then obviously we have guys like Dougie and Luther and Zico and Roro and all those guys that fit that mold too.
I don't even know. Like, I picking the 18 first couple weeks is going to be so tough, especially in those areas, because there's so many midfielders, attacking players, forwards. Like, so that'll be interesting to see what coach ends up doing. I know we got a lot of fun memories last year, Lee. Like, what, and Connor and I have talked about this. I've done it with Briggs, but like, what are the few moments from last year that have stuck out to you? And when you think about, okay, my career as a whole, these few moments I'll never forget.
There was plenty, but to me, the Galaxy game was more enjoyable than the semi-final. Probably I was in so much pain that semi-final, I couldn't enjoy it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a flight the next week. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was horrible. Anyway, Galaxy to me was the best occasion, just because like going to their stadium and the fans behind the goal was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And like, just we had an inner belief in us, but then when it actually happens, we're like, okay, we're fearless now. We've beaten 2 MLS teams. Why can't we go and win it? Yeah. But then the final as well, I know we lost, but like that was the best atmosphere I ever played in.
That was incredible.
And the whole week build up was really good.
What did we talk about this? My case on like if you would put the Sporting Kansas City game and the LA Galaxy game, if they were the same round, the LA Galaxy game would have been more professional or a bigger deal in terms of like.
I don't think you talked to me about that.
Oh well.
I think I heard you say that on the podcast.
I'm pretty sure I talked to you about it.
But I was like, then like I always wonder these questions with guys coming over from Europe and stuff. It's like, what was the biggest adjustment you think for like you last year playing USL? Like, it doesn't even have to be a soccer part of it.
Yeah.
I know like there's some guys that'll be like, there's obvious answers, like the travel is.
Honestly, like I like before I came over here, like I didn't leave club in Ireland. I was with the same club for 7 years, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to be like in a new environment. I wasn't really that person. Once I came over here, I knew after a couple of days, like I felt so settled. Like I just felt really relaxed and could be myself, and kind of came out of my shell a bit. And that probably happens when you're moving away from home. You have to. You can't be quiet, and just like I said, you have to go out and get to know people and stuff. But the type of players and people here, it made it really easy. And even in the city, just everyone's so friendly. I don't know if it's my accent or something, but everyone's extra friendly.
Everyone wants to be friends with you.
Yeah.
They don't want to be friends with me. They just hear your Irish accent. But it's tough going to new teams. I mean, I've done it a couple of times, more than a couple of times, and there's been times where I show up and I, like Sacramento's one of them and OKC was one of them, where I felt like, all right, I feel comfortable, I can be who I am from the start. But there's times when you kind of like into a new team and you're like how do I go about like showing who I am, especially when you're trying to be like a loud guy on the team or just who you are as a player. It can be really difficult, and it can take time, and it's definitely, I think, like he said in SAC, we kind of have a good relationship with a lot of the guys that they let you be yourself. So, I mean, I feel like coming over from a different country into a different league, there's a lot of growing pains, but I think obviously Lee handled it great last year, especially coming in with no preseason and jumping straight into it. So,
I remember how long before opening night were you here?
7 days.
Yeah. I remember talking to Briggs. He's like, he's playing 90.
Yeah, I wasn't ready yet.
Wow.
I wasn't there yet.
Yeah, that was strange. We actually played terrible that night, but we won. But we done that a lot last year, and we need to bring that into this year. You're not going to play well.
Especially on the road.
Yeah. In this league, like, the surfaces a lot of the times aren't great. You just, a lot of teams are at a similar level, and it's a grind. And the more we can do that, the more points you'll pick up.
Well, you talked about getting points at home, obviously so important. But when you think of stretches, these first 7 games is arguably the toughest stretch of the year. Do you guys think about that, knowing that? I know I mentioned it, but or is it something where you are just like, hey, game by game, we're gonna approach it all the same. We're not really worried about what's going to happen in 3 weeks.
It is a bit of a cliche, but you just take one at a time.
Yeah, I like to think one at a time. You obviously kind of have them, you look into the future and you're like, all right, this week, blah, blah, but I think once you start doing that, if you're doing that on a more consistent basis where you're worried about 2 weeks from now, you're sacrificing what's at hand on that week. So I think for us this year especially, it's going to be just focusing on, I told you when we did the podcast about the offseason, it was like, all right, this whole preseason is built up for El Paso away.
Yeah.
And then once that game's over, you wipe the slate clean and you go get ready for the next game.
Charleston
at home, but I'm worried about El Paso away.
I know. Just checking to see if you know. And I imagine when the Open Cup final was coming up and you had that month stretch, I would imagine though that's got to be when it's so tough to hold all that back, right? It's constantly in the back of your mind.
Yeah. And the coach has done a good job of trying to take the pressure off us, and we kind of have a leadership group as well where we were trying to influence everybody else, keeping people calm, especially guys who had never been in that kind of situation before, the young boys. It's just another game of football, and just enjoy it because it mightn't ever happen again. So we done that well.
We also had a lot of games in between too, which obviously is helpful, and we were trying to get that home playoff spot, which is obviously a goal of ours this year, because it's so important, because we played so well at home, and for obvious reasons our fans have created such a good atmosphere that it's hard to come play against us. So I mean, that helped us kind of settle down a little bit.
You mentioned, and Mark has mentioned that, last year was great. However, we didn't win anything. You mentioned it just a second ago. How do you use that as focus and momentum and encouragement and drive going into this year trying to win some hardware?
I think because you get a taste of being close and you want it again. And it's the same guys. So we can't relax. And as well as that, the new boys, they don't want to hear about us being in the cup final and stuff like that. We talk about it probably more than we should, but right, let's create something new now. Let's go and do it again. We underachieved in the playoffs. Let's get to the final this year, because we know we have it in us, but it just has to be every week. And where we probably slipped up last year was the games with no disrespect to some of the opposition, but the games we really should have won, maybe away to Vegas, home to Vegas, those kind of games. And we picked up a lot of points against the teams up the top end, but we need to have every week the same mentality. It doesn't matter who it is. Just we're at our best, and we just pick up the points every week.
I love it. I think that's all the notes I had. Did you have any follow-up questions? Any things you wanted to add?
No, I think I'm good.
I
love hanging out with this guy, though.
Well, this was fun. I mean, we basically had not this entire conversation. We had a whole separate podcast conversation on Tuesday night when we were just chatting about various things. Always a good time talking to you guys. So thanks for joining us. This was Between Two Connor. Not too tough, right? A lot of easy questions.
Yeah, easy. Pretty easy.
Well, don't say too easy.
On you.
No, enjoyable.
Okay, well, that's good. That's
Short
good.
and
That's
sweet.
good. I was longer than you think. How long do you think we went?
Well, I looked at your watch and it said 3:38, so I'm gonna guess 27 minutes.
Yeah, well, you're
I
looking
just
at my
looked at the
recording.
screen.
That's wrong. We were recording before we started. We're probably around 23 minutes. But thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it,
and we'll have to do it again, Lee.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I guess we have to do it again too, right?
Maybe. I'll think about it.
I will actually text you next time instead of go through the other routes like you gave me a hard time
Too
for.
big time for me.
No, that's not it at all. All right. Thank you, guys.